So it's a brand new year. It's a brand new 2024. And many of us have started making many resolutions of things we want to achieve this year. I know some of us, like me, have made the resolution to become fit. It's 7 days. I'm not going to say how well or not it's going. But many of us have made many resolutions. There's some of us who've made a resolution to start a business or to grow our businesses or to do better in our career, maybe to spend more time with family or maybe to even start a new hobby. I know some of us have come here this morning looking for the word of the year. What is the word of 2024 that I'm going to hold on to? Some of us maybe went to a crossover service. You know, those crossover services that on the night of the 31st, you go to church service until the morning of the 1st. Many of us were there to go and hear what the word of 2024 was going to be. Now, unfortunately, when the clock struck 12, I was sleeping. And therefore, I wasn't at any of those things to hear such a word or to bring it back to you today. Yet one thing I do know about what will happen this year in 2024 is that God will still be good. And not only that, God will still be good towards us. I know for certain that God will still be so majestic, so big, so large that my imagination can't even contain it. As Chad talks about the expanse of the universe, and he's bigger than that. God is still going to be majestic. I don't know exactly what's going to happen in your life. I don't know exactly if you're going to do your resolutions or not do your resolutions. But I do know that God will still love you immensely. And God will still draw you closer to him and into a life of abundance that he has for you. I know that God's goodness will always be available to each and every one of us in 2024. Now, as many of you are aware, we are part of a global family of churches called Every Nation. You saw from the video there, with churches in 82 countries around the whole wide world. This past December, on the 17th of December, I had an opportunity of visiting one of the churches in Kampala, Uganda. I was there visiting some family, and I visited the Every Nation Church in Kampala, Uganda. They were being supported by a missionary team who had gone from Every Nation Tswane, one of our churches, Willows, in Tswane. They were leading worship and singing songs from one of our churches, from Every Nation Rosebank, here in Johannesburg. 1 week later, I came back. My family couldn't travel with me, so I came back, and then we as a family went to holiday in Cape Town. I visited Every Nation Every Nation Baxter in Cape Town. This is a church I used to attend many, many years ago. Every one of these churches and every one of the 82 Every Nation churches around the world has a goal to know God more and to make him known more in the whole wide world. And here we are as Junction Church in Fourways, joining our Every Nation family worldwide in starting this year with a resolution to be set apart, with a resolution to be holy. We'll unpack more of what this means today and in the weeks coming, but just know this, that this Sunday, and the next few weeks, we'll be setting ourselves apart as individuals and as a church to be holy and to be set apart for God, while also resting in how he has set us apart by his death and resurrection on the cross. This week I'll be starting off the series looking at the holiness of God, because God is holy. Some of us sitting here may have different reservations about this. Some of us thinking, what does this mean I have to be perfect? Like this whole holy thing. Does this mean now I have to be perfect? There are others of us who may be thinking, bro, you don't want to know how I ushered in this new year. Like, I wasn't at a crossover service, I'll tell you that. You don't want to know where I was and what I was doing. I'm not ready for this. Yet there's some of us also who may be looking at ourselves proudly, thinking that it was so squeaky clean, and thinking, I've got this on lock. I mean, holiness, I'm already there. So I don't need to hear about this. To all of you, and maybe even if you're not one of these people here, my prayer is that you understand that God is holy. And because He's like unlike anything else or anyone else, we too are called to be set apart for God. Let's start today by reading the scripture from Psalm 96, verse 1 to 9, which will be the scripture we read today. Are you able to see that? Let's all stand and read together, please. Oh, sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Sing to the Lord, bless His name. Tell of His salvation from day to day. Declare His glory among the nations, His marvelous work among all the peoples. For great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods. All gods of the peoples are worthless idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Splendor and majesty are before Him. Strength and beauty are in His sanctuary. Ascribe to the Lord, O families of the peoples. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due His name. Bring an offering and come into His courts. Worship the Lord in the splendor of holiness. Tremble before Him, all the earth. Thank you. You may be seated. Now, it starts with the first line there. Oh, sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. The psalmist is calling all the earth, everyone, to sing to the one true God, who is all-powerful and all-knowing. And he's calling all the earth, which doesn't matter who or where, and that includes you. Therefore, God is calling you and I to sing to Him and tell of His greatness. It doesn't matter your background or what you did last summer or what you didn't do last summer. That was a movie reference to anyone who didn't know that. It doesn't matter who your family is or where you work or where you go to school. You too have this opportunity to serve God, the one true God in 2024. It calls us also to sing a new song to God. Now, previous slide, stay there. To sing a new song, this doesn't necessarily mean now we should go onto our phones and look on Spotify and try and find a song that we didn't sing yesterday so that we can sing a new song today. And if this fails, now we have to compose a new song because we've gone through all the songs we can find on the internet. No, that this means that all the time there will be something new to sing about what God has done. Because God is always working, both in our lives and in the lives of those around us. There's always so much to be singing about what God is doing. There's so many things that can actually blind us from the work that God is doing and blind us from seeing who God is. And one of those things is sin. Sometimes we have been living our lives contrary and different to the life that God has called us to live, and contrary to His awesome character and His beauty. If you've been turning your back to God by the way you've been living, and therefore you have now been blinded to His beauty, blinded to His majesty, and blinded to His glory, maybe today is the day to turn back so that you too can also be struck in awe by something so much more beautiful and so much more wonderful than the destructive darkness of sin. You too can sing a new song to God about what He's doing in your life, rescuing you from the deathly clutches of sin and giving you a newer, infinitely better life in Him. The question is, will you choose Him today? If you look at your life, will you choose Him today? The second thing which may be blind us to what God is doing in the world, in our life, is our own self-righteousness. Maybe you were one of those who said about the series, I don't really hear a series about holiness. Like, my life is kind of great. I've been doing all the right things. Look at me. I've been ticking all the right boxes. I even make my bed in the morning. How much more holy can I get? My friend, in comparison with the perfection and infinite goodness and the majesty and the love of God, your life is actually extremely boring, extremely unworthy. It's not compared to God, and you look at your life that you've ticked all the right boxes, it's not worth it, and there's so much more to experience. There are some of us who've been so consumed by our own reflection in the mirror, judging everyone who hasn't ticked all the boxes that we've ticked, being only satisfied in our good works, which we think we've done by ourselves, not realizing that it was God who was holding us the whole time, keeping us from sinning. Maybe today is the day to get over your boring, raggedy life, your boring, raggedy self, and see the infinite beauty of God, standing eternally in awe of Him, and repent for aiming so small. Maybe today is the day to do that. Will you choose to look at Him today and sing a new song to God today? Next verse, it says, "Sing to the Lord, bless His name. Tell of His salvation from day to day." Think of how much God has done for you, even just this year and even just today. How He has sustained you today. As we sang, Jesus, you're the reason that I'm even breathing. Say something like that. I may have misquoted the words. But He has given you everything. He has provided everything you need to come here today and bless us with your presence and bless us with the gifts that He's given you. There are things that He's sorting out for your tomorrow that you don't even know about. Therefore, you can rest in the goodness of who God is. You can sleep at night resting knowing that God is in control. For those of us who've been freed from a life of sin because we've chosen Jesus, that song comes to mind, "Where would I be if not for your grace, carrying me in every season?" This isn't a judgmental, at least I'm not like that guy, kind of way. This is I'm so happy because of the freedom I have to live with Jesus, because He's freed me and rescued me. Sing to the Lord and bless His name because of all and everything that He has done in your life. It says, the next verse, declare His glory among the nations, His marvelous works among all the peoples. We tell others about the wonderful things that God has done so that they too can experience the beauty of God. When others see and hear about the things He has done, they too will see it for themselves and glorify God for the things He's done. They can also surrender their lives to His rule. So like the story of the Samaritan woman in the Gospel of John. Jesus is at the well and He meets the Samaritan woman. He tells her everything. She finds out that He knows everything intimately about her, but yet still chooses to meet her where she's at. Now, obviously, she's blown away by this, so she runs back to the city she's from, the town she's from, and she tells people, guys, there's someone who knows everything about me. He told me everything about me. You've got to see Him for yourself. They run back to the well, find Jesus there, and they said, it's true what you said. He does know everything. It's even more amazing than what you could have said. We tell others about Jesus. We declare His glory among the nations so that others too can experience this for themselves and live a life for him. There's so much going on in so many places around the world. Some of those places are near us. Some of us, those places are on faraway nations from us. And Jesus is the King of the world, and he's able to intervene in every situation. Those very near to us and dear, and those even maybe far away. By telling others about Jesus, we give them the opportunity to invite Jesus into their situations so that it may reflect his awesome beauty and his glory. Now, sometimes we're too scared to do so, like me. It's a problem I have. I'm trying so hard not to offend, thinking, hey, they can find salvation or solution to their problems in their own ways. Why am I imposing my way onto them? They can find it in their own ways, doing their own things. But the ultimate solution and ultimate source of every problem in the world can only be found in Jesus. For every problem for your neighbor can only be found in Jesus. For every problem for you can only be found in Jesus. The next verse says, "For great is the Lord and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods." There is nothing at all that could ever come close to God. There's nothing that could ever compare to him and compare to his glory. There's nothing that comes close to his abundance and his goodness towards us, as well as his love for us. I'm sure you can look at yourself and be like, wow, if I look what God has done for me, nothing and no one could have ever come close. There's nothing that comes close to his ability to rescue us from any and every situation you may find yourselves in. He's so powerful that he can even rescue us from the eternal destruction caused by our own sin. He's the only one who can do so, not yourself, not the power that you think you have or you may not have, not the status that you think you have or you may not have, or the family name that you think you have or may not have, or the passport that you think you have or may not have, or the other spiritual beings that you think you can run to instead of Jesus. Nothing and no one comes close to who he is. He should be feared above all things because he's supremely powerful and more powerful above all things. And he should be trusted over all things because he's the only one who's supremely good and good towards us. The next verse says, "For all the gods of the peoples are worthless idols, but the Lord made the heavens." Compared to the majesty and splendor of God, everything else that you can try apart from him is worthless and useless. Why would you rely on an ant to drag someone your size up its anthill instead of relying on the God who can elevate you to the place that he has created for you? He made the heavens and all things, spiritual or material, so ultimately he is the only one to depend on. I know it's hard sometimes because the other things to depend on us just in front of us, so we can so easily call on them. We can so easily touch them. They seem so near and they seem so nice, but God seems so far away and sometimes not in our immediate view. But then the verse says, splendor, next slide, splendor and majesty are before him. Strength and beauty are in his sanctuary. The things that you know are lovely and beautiful and good to look at. And sometimes those things try to make it look like they are the ultimate goodness and the ultimate beauty and splendor. Your faith lies like, if you just had this thing, how good would your life look? How great would your life be? How fulfilled would your life be if you just had this one thing? It's like Eve in the garden and she sees the fruit. And she's like, if you just had this one thing, you will be like God. Now someone may sit here thinking, now Pat is saying that we shouldn't like nice things. Like, we should live a boring life. Not at all. I am all for enjoying the good gifts that God has given us that reflect His beauty and reflect His glory. I'm just saying ultimate beauty and splendor are found in the God of the Bible. And we see all other beauty so much better, and all of the niceness of other things so much better when we move towards Him. And as we move away from Him, those beauties start to fade away. The illusion that they cause about how great you are will be shown to be the charade they were all along. For many of us, we forget this. As we experience both the good things in life as well as the burdens, then the wonder that we have for God sometimes fades away. There are many of us sitting here who at some point had this burning passion for God and longed to see Him more, and then life just got in the way, fading His glory in our sight. We sometimes find that we try and occasionally go back to that place where we were and say, if only I could feel that again. So we start performing familiar rituals and say, if I sang the songs that I sang back then, maybe I would feel like that again. Now, as I said at the beginning, God He's been doing a thing in your life even when you couldn't see Him. God had been touching your life even when you were running away from Him. There's a new aspect to see about God's goodness and about God's glory here for you today, where your life is at right now. There are also some of us who may have been saying, yes, I tried all of that. I tried living for God. I tried the holiness thing. But look at where my life ended up. It's not where elevated as you said. It's not reflecting the glory of God as you said it's supposed to. I'm really struggling to see the goodness of God where my life has ended up. The Psalm 96 ends as follows. We didn't read it, but it as follows. Say among the nations, the Lord reigns. Yes, the world is established, it shall never be moved. He will judge the peoples with equity. Let the heavens be glad and let the earth rejoice. Let the sea roar and all that fills it. Let the field exult and everything in it. Then shall the trees of the forest sing for joy before the Lord, for he comes to judge the earth. He will judge the world in righteousness and the peoples in faithfulness. You may not see it right now, but God is making this world right. Things right now may seem unfair, and you may be wondering, but is this really worth it? Because it looks like the bad guys always win. So what's the point? But God will never leave us. And God will never forsake us. And Jesus is coming back to make all things right. When we are resurrected one day with our perfect bodies, seeing God for who He fully is and who He truly is, we will realize that all we did for God was not in vain. There was a point and there was a purpose. Even though we couldn't see it, even though we can't see it now, we will see it then. The unfair judgment and the unfair treatment we seem to be receiving in this life will seem pale in comparison to the glory and the goodness of God we'll experience then, when He comes and He makes all things fully right. Yet between now and then, there will be a point where you have to answer to God for the life that you have lived. When you answer to Him, will you stand with your sins washed clean because you chose to hold on to the redeeming work of Jesus on the cross and chose to live accordingly? Or will you stand naked, having forsaken the free covering that Jesus has been offering you all along? To reiterate the last part of the psalm we read earlier, ascribe to the Lord, O families of the peoples. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord glory due His name. Bring an offering and come into His courts. Worship the Lord in splendor of holiness. In the splendor of holiness, tremble before Him, all the earth. Are you going to declare with your words and your life the glory and the strength of the one true God this year? Are there things that you trusted in apart from Him which may have pulled you away from Him? Are you going to leave those things this year so that you can now follow God fully? Are you going to give your life to Him as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to Him, as it says in Romans 12? Are you going to enjoy fellowship and companionship with Jesus, with Him, and with other Christians just like all of us here who can help you grow? Are you going to sing to Him both individually and collectively, reminding yourself of the good things that He has done, of His worthiness and His majesty? Like, are you going to choose to live for God in 2024 as the worship team comes up? God is holy, and nothing ever comes close. The start of our holiness starts from the fact that God is holy. Before we can tick any boxes, we have to first surrender our lives to Jesus. And He then conforms our heart towards Him, and not us ticking boxes in our own minds. The question is, will you surrender your lives to Him? Whether it's the first time, or whether you want to return to Jesus after running away. We're going to sing a song in worship declaring the holiness of God. Would you please stand as we sing?
Worthy, so